happens. We could do like a mukbang on one of these or something. And just start eating
people would be like, "No, you are not eating on camera."
All right, we have to get on topic.
Okay.
Like people are tuning out of their fast forward and they're just like, "What are these two numbskulls doing?" We're going to talk about deadlifting today. Specifically, we're going to talk about deadlifting for athletes when they should do it, or as you're going to say, shouldn't do it at all.
No, that's not accurate.
All right, whatever.
You have to define. I think we need to define deadlifts, but keep going.
We're going to look into why athletes shouldn't be doing it. Like, hey, you're kind of wasting your time here, or maybe you're missing something here too. And then how I want to talk about, and we'll talk about how in the garage strength periodization model, like program design, despite the fact that Dane is on record saying, I don't have my athletes deadlift. I don't have my athletes deadlift. His athletes do pull every leg day.
Yeah.
There is a pull. Now, granted, it's usually a clean or a snatch. There's still a pull portion of that lift. So they are getting that movement pattern in. It's just in a much more, I guess, dynamic impulse, moving heavyweight fast type of thing. More change of direction.
Do you want me to bring out this book?
Oh, you're going to read to us again today? About dynamic correspondence?
About Impulse from 1956.
Yeah, you love Impulse. All right.
We could talk about Impulse from a sports performance book in 1956, and we still can't talk about it in 2024.
Yeah. I wonder, I figure what it happens when you search it. Because when I was playing with the AI today around generating my fitness, what workout I was going to do instead of asking you, I used the word impulse in it, and it just repeated things back to me. I was like, this is what I get for using free stuff.
I think the first step that I think you got to take when you're looking at deadlifting is like, what are we talking about? Because I do think if you look at a snatch pull or a snatch grip deadlift or a clean grip deadlift or a snatch, grip RDL or, a stiff legged deadlift or trap bar deadlift or, I even have a lot of the football guys, we do this swinging RDL that I really, really like. And it's like, theoretically, those are versions of a deadlift. And I think that that's the thing is like, in all reality, if you're looking at the movements, it's like you've got a clean and then your grip can change. And when your grip changes and you want to get overhead, you go to a snatch. You got a squat. And if you change the location of the squat, you go to a front squat. Then you change it to a single leg squat. So you have versions of the squat though. But then you also look at a pull and a deadlift, and just picking up a bar that's not moving is a deadlift. But then also picking up dumbbells that aren't moving is technically a dumbbell deadlift. And then you can go into those things. So I think it's like, do we not deadlift in a traditional sense? Yes. Most of the time, I would say 95% of the time. Maybe sometimes
you're
with
not going to
wrestlers.
see the deadlift as the absolute strength movement.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're a power lifter. If you're a power lifter, it's a different, Swole Kyle can deadlift 675 for a triple. And it's like, okay, that's 305 kilos for a triple on deadlift. Like, and he's 21, 22. So like, we do program it, and I deadlifted for like 5 straight years to get to
700 pounds.
Right. So like,
I think we heard about that as much as we heard about you running a marathon.
Me running a marathon. We should have a bell. We should have like the Dane.
Why don't you make that the PR bell?
That'd be funny. But I think that when I'm looking at it, we do so much pulling with a clean or a snatch, and then again with a lot of either glute ham, reverse hyper, back extension, Nordics, anything like that. So it's like, do we need, and I value the positions of a front squat, a single leg squat, a back squat much more in their transference to the sport world that I just, that's where I'm at with it. So it's like, it's this discussion that, and also what are you trying to get? What are we trying to get out of our athletes in training too? And I think that to say I don't deadlift would theoretically be accurate, but we also probably deadlift more than most systems. if you're looking at it with the
at
minutia.
a broader lens,
Yeah.
with the thing. If you're hinging at the hip or whatever.
Oh yeah, you love the hinge.
No, I just like trolling you now
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. I actually watched an entire thing with who was it? I don't know if they were talking to Rhonda Patrick. I've been on this like diehard, like I've watched literally like, dude, I wanted to bring up to you and Jason is actually I've been watching people that I would want to talk to on a podcast. And
Talk on a podcast.
Huh? Yeah. Well, yeah, on a podcast, yeah. I'm writing down questions that I would like to ask them. And I may never speak to these people, but it makes me pay attention more and it makes me write more. Anyway, I think it was on one of her podcasts that the physiologist was like, everything is actually oppressed based off of how movement pattern actually rolls. Yeah, so I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up. So what are your thoughts, Earl, on that deadlift aspect?
The deadlift?
Yeah.
How you see it within the system, like all the other stuff going on. I think it's accurate. As someone who is currently in, I don't think there was a week that didn't go by that there wasn't an RDL. Very unilateral, to your point, like accessory based stuff. And it's just a way to temper, I guess, intensity too, because as I'm older now, like I will deadlift, but it's the only lift I do on the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I sleep so well at night because it crushes my system. And knowing that, I only do it on the weekends too, so I don't have to make any crazy demands outside of what I choose to do to my body.
Right.
And that's just one for me. If I was not as well versed and like maybe a beginner in the space, I would argue with you that, like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think I'd want to take the thing like, and I could be totally wrong here. You have your South Dakota State University thing on. Wrestlers, I've heard, I think, I don't know, want a deadlift. They feel like it's helpful for them a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I could see like, all right, you got to like yank something off the mat or something like that. Like I could see like grabbing a sandbag. Like that makes sense to me, right?
Yep.
Which is kind of deadlift. It's just more like a Zercher type of variety of it. And what I'm curious about is when would it actually be okay to be like, yo, let's program deadlifts for this sport, for this person, reason.
If somebody really wanted like a traditional deadlift and they weren't a power lifter, right? Like,
yeah,
I think that outside of wrestling, if you had like offensive linemen that were like, yo, can we just like spend like 8 to 12 weeks and just push to like a max and see what we could hit, I would be probably okay with that. Now I would try to monitor back pain substantially, because that's another big factor too, is that like, and it's not the exercise's fault, but it tends to be the ego's fault, and because of that, the exercise brings that out more, is that a lot of athletes tend to hurt their back when they're pulling, especially if they get stuck, because what happens, like they'll get stuck, they'll extend at the hips, and then they either get a hamstring issue because it lengthens so rapidly when it shouldn't be, or lower back pain just blows up, right? And I think that as long as like the technical aspect is covered and you're going through that, I would probably be okay with that. Now, one thing with,
would you do that exposure comprehension?
Exposure phase post-season, like season ended and we're getting back in shape. We spend 4 weeks of lifting. Maybe you're doing like a lot of RDLs to prep for it, then comprehension phase, and you could roll through a cycle trying to build that up.
Well, now what happens, ego me, I get to the ascension, it's like, where'd my deadlifts go? I wanted my like 1 rep in the summit and stuff like that.
I would keep them in there the whole way.
So you would let the intensity
keep going.
All right.
If that's what they wanted, if that was like a goal that they have. Like, one thing that I'd bring up too.
How would you argue with them why this is a bad goal?
I would argue that one, we do plenty of accessories that target that. This is a great question with me wearing the South Dakota State shirt because they initially, like, I don't know, 3 months ago we had a meeting with the team, and the one kid was like, we don't do as much posterior chain work, and I was like, really? Well, what about like cleans? What about and like a lot of people think cleans is like all anterior, and it's like, dude, you're pulling constantly. But I was
Can I comment on that statement?
Yeah.
So I've been doing snatch high pulls.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go overhead. My basement's too. But I still want to train snatch a little bit, so I do it on an upper body power day. And
Snatch, you're saying?
Like a high pull.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, all right, that
why
feels
not
like
catch
upper
a
body.
snatch in the hole and then just drop it down like a Korean?
Oh, if I would pull it, it'd hit my ceiling. Like it would still get too high.
Even if you dropped?
I think so.
You should try it.
It would have to be like those non-extended snatches, that weird variation.
Like the
I forget what you used
we
to
used to
call
call
that.
them Ilya snatches.
Yeah, it'd have to be something like that. I've done like PA snatches, I call them.
I bet you could snatch. You could. I would argue, because you're only gonna pull a full snatch to like 4.5 feet.
Yeah,
You would get under it.
I just couldn't stand it up.
Yeah.
I'll play with it.
Just do it for fun.
I will try it.
Just as like you catch it
Yeah.
and then you drop it. And the only reason that is there was an American weightlifter that was known for, that's how he trained.
Because he was in a basement?
He was in a basement and he would pause like 2 to 3 seconds and then put it back down.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why.
All right. I will try it. But so when I do it, right, the first thing I notice, because it's like it's what I will use for the technical coordination movement, because I can't jerk overhead too, and I don't want to PA press every single time I have an upper body day.
Right.
My hamstrings just light up
Right
away. I'm just like, dang, I forgot. Like, and I'm old too.
So that's the whole thing. Is like going back to the South Dakota State discussion was like, all right, well, we are doing this. Now, this is where I would go even further is we're doing a lot of pulls. We're doing a lot of back squats. We're doing a lot of single leg squats. And then RDLs, all these things, right? The kid did have a point because I had taken a lot of this stuff out because it was the first program of the season. The reason why I had taken out more of the posterior chain work is because the first week or the first program of the season, typically, this is when guys' necks, shoulders, because they're starting to wrestle more frequently. So the volume of the specific sport goes up. Further depth discussion around the sport analysis is we know how much time sport training goes up from preseason to in season.
Do you want to elaborate when you say the depth, like what you're getting at there?
So it's looking at like, all right, let's say you have your sport time, you have your impulse time, which is how much resistance-based training you're doing in the weight room. Then you have endurance work, and then you have speed work if you're in a sport that has locomotion. And basically, if we look at sport-specific work, so your actual training for your sport with your team or coach, how much time is that out of your total time? How much time is impulse work out of your total training time? How much is endurance? How much is speed? And the endurance portion, oftentimes in a sport like wrestling, will pull from sport specificity too, because you're going to be doing some higher intensity work in the actual room. So we know that when, November or October in this case comes around for collegiate wrestling, that number drastically goes up. So I had taken out some posterior chain work because also the last preseason program, that's really high with a lot of RDL variations with barbells. So I think that's why I would take out that first program, remove any type of deadlift exercise. Now, the other issue I was going to bring up is that oftentimes, because wrestlers are always in a prone, they're more prone to round their shoulders.
Like turtle up a little bit, right?
They tend to pull that way too, quite a bit, because they just feel stronger that way. And then sometimes if we're doing auditory command cleans, that can lead to other back problems because they don't get set really tight right away, and they don't pull tension out of the bar before they light it up. So that's where I'm a little bit more tentative, whereas if that's in season. And then if they get hurt, then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, they hurt their back, and now we have another problem. We don't want them to be hurt in season. If we don't want them to be hurt at all, but if you're going to take a little bit of a risk there, do it out of season to try and push that. That would be my argument there.
Nice. Yeah. Deadlifting. I think we're at all right. That's when the deadlift should be done. Outside of season, if you're going to use it at all. In season, it seems like when you start, we get into this depth discussion around how I don't know if bias is the right word, but like what takes up the athlete's time.
Yeah.
So like off season, weight room can take up more time, right? Like your impulse training. But in season, all of a sudden, sport specific stuff starts taking away from those other places. And then also too will trickle into those other places as well too, like namely around endurance stuff, right? Like so if you're in football and you do a 10 play drive, right? There's sort of your like power endurance type of thing there, right? Your sustained endurance going on there. So you don't necessarily need to program that, but it also takes away. All right. I'm learning.
Yeah, and some of that stuff too where I've been thinking through is like, if we have impulse and we have the sport specificity over here, the specific sport, how much time are they doing practice? 12 hours a week, right? And then if we looked at it and we said, okay, so if they're practicing 12 hours a week and then they're getting into the weight room, this many minutes, let's say 90 minutes 3 times a week, then how much of that time is devoted to impulse versus endurance versus, in a specific sport?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get into now, what's interesting, and this is a little off path from the deadlift, but I would use this with a power lifter, is breaking down further, like, okay, if we're in impulse, and then what's the priority lift based off of that sport, based off of how we see testing, then is there a ratio of pull to press? Is there a ratio of upper body?
Gets deep.
Yeah, and you can keep sort of whittling down into these depths of ratios that you would use based off of what type of sport you're working with.
Like an ocean.
Exactly. And then that's where, like, what's interesting for me is going back and using program design, Garage Strength Program Design, our book.
Garage Strength Nautical Program Design.
Yeah. And then going back and looking through all that.
Submariner.
Exactly. And it makes it like, all right, this is how I would set this up. So.
Namor. Oh, that one.
I don't get that one.
Yeah.
What's Namor?
He's a Marvel comic character who's like underseas, kind of fights with Black Panther.
I wish I got that one.
Wakanda Forever in the second.
I let you down on that one.
It's all right. I wasn't let down. I just nerded you out a little bit more. It's like you could just talk about Pokemon and be like, I don't know. I'm learning.
Actually, we just, I just got a lot of Pokemon yesterday.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah.
My Necromancer on Diablo 4 is almost at level 100.
I got so many Pokemon last night that Caitlin was like, do you ever have those nights that you, like, dude, I have them personally where I'll just be in a bad mood. And I often...
Not recently.
Okay, so sometimes I'll try to be aware of it. Dude, Caitlin might have these nights 3 to 4 times out of the entire year. Like, she's not somebody who will push her, who projects anything. But she complained about this Pokemon thing that I had, right? And I brought it home, and Sanderson and I were talking. Sanderson's in this zone that he wants to start a cupcake business, so we're talking through, and I like showed him some Pokemon stuff that I got him, and she's like complaining about that. Then she was complaining about the smell of this fish that I was cooking. Then and I was like, dude, are you gonna freaking complain about everything tonight?
Oh man.
She's like, I woke up at 4:30. Shut up. But it was just, it reminded me of like the look Jason gives me when I'm complaining about things. I'm like, I'm trying to take hints a little bit more.
You're trying to be a little bit more empathetic is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when I'm being the baby.
Oh, wow.
Because Caitlin's only like that 3 or 4 times out of the year. I'm like that like 3 or 4 times a week.
Dang.
No, I don't think I'm that bad.
I don't know. Maybe you are. I don't deal with you at home, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of easy to deal with, but that's only me. I feel like I'm the odd one out. I do. Look at you smiling.
Well, I'm also looking at this on the screen.
Do we have to do reacts now? I think it's time to get back to the deadlift.
Yeah.
How many hearts do we have, Jason? Are we at 30 yet?
We got a bunch of hearts.
Who's been counting? Someone in the chat say how many hearts they counted. And then Jason will tell me when he reads it.
So,
we're
dude,
gonna react.
well,
I have to help
was
Jason
just thinking
navigate this. Oh,
this video here that we're looking at, was this I feel like this was during COVID, or like they weren't doing like live events yet.
I gotta see where the mouse is at.
And I remember, if you go to your left,
You're on it now.
you can see it.
Oh yeah.
I remember when this, maybe it was, yeah, this is in Iceland, right?
Yeah, look at all that chalk.
I drove past his gym.
Yeah, he is a strong individual. I just want to say, having been to an NBA game, NBA players are built just like this man, except they decided not to be strong men. They decided to be like super athletic people.
Yeah.
Not saying he's not athletic, but like their frames look like that. It's just a much leaner frame.
Dude, just looking at the intent, first of all, that platform he's on is actually like a big platform. He makes it look like a kid's set.
Yeah.
I also think, if I remember
Is he
correctly, is that Magnus for Magnuson, who's the judge?
Oh, he's another strong man.
Yeah, he was like the OG, like greatest of all time, basically.
That's the problem with strong. Oh, that was so. Oh, squeeze your butt. I am envious of people who deadlift and it just flies off the floor. Jeez, he's so big. Do you think one of those YouTube pranksters would try to pull a prank on him if they saw him walking down? Like, you know, those like tough guy YouTubers who like walk around with security guards?
No, but when I wanted to tell you, I drove past when I was in Iceland, I drove past
Why didn't you go in and train?
his gym. He wasn't there. And the guy that I was with knew he wasn't there. And then when we were leaving, he was in the airport and he walked past us. We're like, dude, that's crazy.
Did you ask to get a picture with him?
No.
Why
I
not?
was scared. He's huge.
You have enough clout.
Not at that was May of 22.
The mountain that rides.
I also I don't want to, like, dude, he's in his home country. I don't know. I felt bad. Dude, he's huge.
He has to be. Here's Eddie Hall. What's crazy is I think Eddie Hall looks small compared to other strongmen. He is also huge.
Yes. He does, like, look at how wide his grip is there.
He got big shoulders. I
Was
wonder
Eddie,
how much he
wasn't
could
Eddie
PA
Hall
press.
a swimmer, I think? Growing up, I'm pretty sure he was a swimmer.
Yes. Doesn't his nose start bleeding here? He's like, I'm going to look around. I'm going to look around. I love when they go down on the knee.
Well, which one was the one where, is it that one where he blacked out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's down.
It was.
So strong.
I think that's like, yeah, I was watching somebody squat this morning. Oh, here we go. This is what I love.
Dude.
So that's Daniel Stahl, world champion discus thrower. And I think he told me
How much is that?
That's $350 for 5. And I'm fair. There's Vestin. So Vestin behind him is Icelandic, ironically. And that's one of the guys that I was with in Sweden or in Iceland when I.
Is he pulling sumo?
Yeah, it's like a semi-sumo. It's like, honestly, I think it's like the best sumo position.
It's so fast.
And I want to say he told us that his best was like 370 for a triple or 380 for a triple.
He doesn't have a 1 rep. He's just like, I'm just strong.
Yeah, he's just an Olympic champion.
That is so sick. Oh, who's this? I know this guy. I talked to him today.
That was 670. That was what, 4 years ago.
Oh.
So I think that would be my argument there would be like, okay, so Sam pulled 670 here. I feel like he's done 700 at a Power Fest. I could be wrong, but I thought he did 700 at a Power Fest. But so think about that. Like he's probably deadlifted twice in 10 years and he's pulled over 300 kilos. It's like, is that, to me, that's a testament to the other exercises transferring to the deadlift.
And making them stronger. Dane, do you ever think you hate the deadlift so much because it's the lift you are the best at? And all the other ones you were always told you weren't good enough at, so you were like, we're going to work harder at these. They're more important. No?
No, I never thought
Okay.
about that. I could take that, though.
I had an interesting conversation today with someone being like happy about a pull number.
Yeah.
And internally I thought, I was like, that's not that heavy for a pull. And then I realized I was like, oh, short legger, you can squat, no problem.
Yeah.
It's like, welcome to the long legger division,
Yeah,
like where they get a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
And sometimes you minimize your own strength.
Yeah, because of that.
Because, okay, I can't
Yeah.
squat this crazy number, but I can pull this, and then someone else, it's like, you can flip it with.
Right.
And then you have people who can just do it all. But
You think Sam looks smaller there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
where they get a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
He's not as thick.
You minimize your own strength.
Yeah, because of that.
Because okay, I can't
He wasn't
squat this
taking
crazy number, but I can
250
pull
for
this,
6
and
or
then
something
someone
like
else,
that.
it's
Is that what he
And a
did the other
squat.
day?
You can flip it with.
Yeah.
I wasn't down there. I was up here working. But I
You
heard
think Sam
everyone
looks
yelling,
smaller there?
and then I went and
Yeah.
asked him, and then watched him do 220, 227, 230 for an unbroken set of
And he
3.
did
He wasn't taking
was it
250
200 for 6 on bench?
Oh, wow.
Might have been 5.
Did I tell you I hit a new bench PR that is nowhere near that?
What is it?
130 with my pec not functioning.
You benched
I
one.
benched 130.
Did you like twist?
Oh, dude, I twist so bad. I end up looking like this at the top.
Really?
Dude, it's crazy. But I freaking hit it. I was pumped.
And it doesn't hurt?
Oh, it hurts like hell. Not when I'm doing it. So I'll be sleeping and like I'll wake up in the morning and I have to like limp my arm over
So why are you doing it?
because it gets me stronger. Look how swole I look.
Dude, it's crazy. But I freaking hit it.
It doesn't hurt while I'm doing it at all.
Oh, it hurts like hell.
That's ridiculous.
Dude, I think I have like
I'll be sleeping.
I bet if I did some genetic thing, I will wager I have some type of gene that makes me recover better.
Because it gets me stronger.
I have no idea, but I will just say I don't think I experience like muscle soreness and pain
Yeah.
bet
The way
like
other people
the
do
way
it.
other people do.
Dude, so
It could also be a mental thing and just
I
putting myself through the ringer so many times.
no idea, but
I sort of think that
don't think I experience.
that's a good debate around is that a genetic thing or is that like a nurture?
So-
Because dude, I just
So it could also be a mental thing and just.
I don't know how to say this without like I have thought about the fact that like dude, Caitlin's like this. She could go and
thing or is that like
just work 12, 14-hour days, go for runs, and like I'm pretty similar. I think you're pretty similar. But I don't know if that's the upbringing versus like
No, my mom got me anything I wanted. I never did anything wrong.
but you probably did something that when you were younger, like you went out and like
Oh, I rode my bike
regularly.
until I could drive a car. I rode my bike everywhere.
So like my only argument would be like you were still doing physical things.
And when I got too hot, I went inside my house and played video games in the AC. And then went out and rode my bike again. I would ride my bike out to where I lived. There was a lake out there. It was probably about 4 miles, 3 miles, maybe 6 miles. I don't know exactly. I would ride it from there out to the lake, go swimming, take it back in. Sometimes I do that 2 or 3 times twice in a day because we were just kids.
Yeah.
And no one was watching us.
But I think that has an impact on your capability to recover. I think that there's like a anyway, yeah,
But isn't there a gene that some people have that make them better at endurance sports? like their body like handles oxygen better. Or
Well, I
like,
don't know if it's. I mean, maybe there. I mean, I'm sure there is a gene,
yeah.
but I'm also sure that it's just like they have a. Yeah, I mean, there probably would be a gene that would help them utilize.
Why are some people more muscular looking? Why do I look
oxygen,
stronger than you?
Yeah,
like,
I can use oxygen better to then create more ATP.
yeah.
So I
It's
mean,
like,
that
why
is-
are my biceps bigger than yours?
that's genetic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like why you're so hypermobile. That's probably genetic. That causes you to be less of an athlete.
I think we have to react to. Hold on, before we react to the freak of the week, have we hit 30 hearts yet, Jason?
I can't tell. That doesn't tell me that
Oh.
information.
Can someone in the chat tell Jason count the hearts for him?
Jason,
Can
I
someone
think,
do it?
is still having some audio issues.
Yeah. Whoa! I just got dizzy.
He is he is not happy right now. He's excited to go to the Arnold, though. I can tell. He's giddy.
That's kind of what's
Can't-
going on. You're going too, aren't you?
Yeah, Thursday and Friday.
Wow, you sound so excited.
It's
All right,
just
cool.
one of those things.
All right, let's react to this.
Wait, what? How high is that,
At minimum,
dude? And that's
I think that's 48 inches.
that's like a little stutter step.
That is definitely. It's like right around nipple level for sure.
It's interesting. He does a counter movement and then a stutter. He does like a double bounce. See that?
Oh yeah, I do see that.
That's a very and I don't even know if he's aware of his double bounce, but that just shows you the extra stretch shortening cycle, what it can do for motor, for like recruitment.
Dane was extra impressed by that one with the let's
It's-
get out of here.
Yeah, that's a really good.
Dane wouldn't accept my challenge around jumping up the steps today because he knew I could do it in less jumps. He's scared.
I need to warm up. That's a good jump.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought we had another one too. Who is
No.
this? Is this Koala?
No. I think it's Jose, I think is what the name was.
Dude, that's springy.
This one was from a bit ago, too. We went into the... Oh, Little Hunt Show.
Okay.
Lil Hunt Show, I think is what it was.
I also think it's absurdly hard to jump into a wall like that.
Yeah. Dude, I think doing max, like, box jumps into wooden boxes is terrifying.
Oh, yeah, because if you shin yourself, you're
Yeah,
done.
it hurts so bad. Like, there's just a level of toughness
Mhm.
just even making that attempt at that
That you
height.
block it out and you go.
Yeah.
I don't care about that hard
Yeah.
edge.
And you hit that once, you're never the same.
Dude,
You're a
Jason,
changed
I
person.
remember when he was younger, hit himself. Yeah.
Oh,
He
Ja-
still has a
Jason's-
scar. And one time he whacked his hand.
Like,
and-
going up.
Yeah, and I swear he had a hole in his hand for like 6 weeks and he was still doing box jumps and stuff. It's like,
Fearless.
dude, he was and at that time he was like 13 years old, just like crushing it.
I wish my son had a little bit of Jason mentality.
Dude,
there.
yeah, that
My kid, the one time I remember doing a box jump, he's outside like by himself, and like I just hear him start crying. I was like, oh, he must have hit his shin off of it. No, all he did was hit his hand to
I
bring
think
it up.
We
And I-
talked about this where it's like, when do you realize as a child that like no one cares? Shut up.
He
and
still
stop crying.
hasn't yet.
Well,
I think
he's 9. Lincoln's 12. Dude.
I realized it in first grade. And I know the moment I realized it because I was playing on the playground. There was this little wooden thing that had like just rectangles coming out, but like they were like balance
Yeah.
length, and you would just like walk up it and like walk out and stuff. And I remember I misjudged stepping down to one, that it was farther than I
And you
thought
ate
it was, and I just ate it, shouldered into it, and I like started like to cry, and like was doing it. And I noticed no one was coming.
Yeah.
No one was looking at me, and I'm just like, well, I guess crying's a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just stopped, and I was like, oh, I guess it may hurt, but I don't have to cry because it hurts, because no
No one
is,
cares.
like, at least no one in this public school cares. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure if my mom saw me do it,
She'd be
would have
upset.
been a different story, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
would have been like, let me come console you. But I don't know. I want my kid to get there.
I won't, dude. There's times with Lincoln that I'm like, come on, dude. What are you doing? But
Single leg squatting, 85 kilos,
yeah, he did do that. Yeah.
which was I remember seeing that. I was like, holy crap. All right, we got to do audience questions now, except because we're live. Oh, wait, no, we have to do the underrated, overrated first. Sorry,
Okay.
I skipped.
I got about
things.
5 minutes because I got to get down and train.
All right,
football
real
guys.
quick. Overrated, underrated. Trap bar, deadlift.
Overrated.
Overrated, underrated. Jefferson, deadlift. Jefferson curl.
Overrated. Everybody's like doing that all the time now. It's like, come on, dude. You know how many freaking strong people existed before they were like that have never even thought about. I'm not saying it's a bad exercise.
Just overrated.
Yeah.
All right, overrated, underrated. Straps. For deadlift.
Underrated.
Yeah, thought so. All right, either or, real quick. When you do reclining rows, barbell or rings?
Ooh. The one thing I like about the barbell is squeezing as hard as you possibly can into the bar and like trying to break the bar with your sternum.
Ooh, ouch. All right. And before we do the audience questions, need to give a shout out to Virtual Cycling. Thank you for joining our channel membership too.
Oh, heck yeah. Thanks.
Apparently that's something that happens on the live. All right, audience questions. Jason, feed them to us.
Okay, so this one's from Frederick W. He's actually a channel member as well. Any thoughts on balancing strength for pulling versus pushing capacity in a general fitness routine?
I think my strength or my thoughts on that would be I've always been a fan of like a 2-to-1 push to pull, but like honestly, most of the setups that we'll use would be like if we had, let's just say, throwing random numbers out there, 5 sets of 7 dumbbell bench, you're going to probably pair that with like 5 sets of 12 row. So like the reps are going to be a little higher on the pull, but the set schemes are going to be almost equal.
Yeah, you love supersetting that stuff.
Yeah, so like I think that's just a real basic thing to follow every time you do a press, do a pull. You know, sometimes you'll see a little bit more reps on the rows. Sometimes you might see that we do more presses in the accessories, and that sort of negates some of that extra reps that you would see in the row. I think just go back and forth between the two and give yourself about 60 seconds rest, and you'd be good.
All right, what's next, Jason?
The next one we got is David Salinatro. What's your take on Landmine University? Basically just doing landmine lifts to replace Olympic lifts.
I mean, I think it's fine. I think that's like his niche, and he's doing a good job putting out his product, and he's doing a good job like explaining his take on Olympic lifts. I like if I was trying to look at it from a sports performance perspective, I would have a different opinion.
Yeah,
But
I know landmine type of loading has been used with reflexive work.
Yeah.
The GSPD system.
That is true. Yes.
If you're trying to get creative in a new way to do that
Yeah.
stuff, like instead of if you're like, oh, dumbbell hip locks.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's almost like sometimes we'll do like a lean in, like lunge to a hip lock, something like that. I like.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do one more. This is from Topwater TV. Hey, Dane, I just turned 14. I'm a powerlifter. Pause
Happy
bench
birthday.
around 197 strict. His program has 3 singles, pause, and 3 unbroken at like 70%, and then 135 for 3 unbroken. He's looking for just some good accessories and bench for bench and deadlift.
Good accessories for bench and deadlift. I would do 5 to 8 sets of dips for like 5 to 10 reps, something like that, or dumbbell, military press. Great accessories there. Deadlift, you could do. Honestly, one of my favorite accessories for a deadlift is a bent over row. I like hater rows. I like reverse hypers as well. I think those are all excellent accessories that pair with the movement.
All good on the audience questions?
All right. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Garage Strength Podcast. Don't forget to check us out on the Apple Podcast,
Spotify, wherever.
Spotify.
We got to
Of course on
5X those
YouTube.
downloads. Like, let's get going, everyone. Help us out. We appreciate you. And
We need-
if you can, join the Discord, the Reddit too. The Reddit's starting to bump a little bit.
And
Don't know
submit
why.
those freaks of the week as well.
Yeah.
Until next time, peace.
Later.